On the bench today is the Epiphone Flying V. The Flying V guitar design, for me, falls into the coolest hell category of guitars, but has horrible ergonomics. I've seen guitar idols from blues to metal play this guitar and make it their own. While playing standing up, the guitar is a joy to play. Sitting down in a conventional sitting position, and the fit and ease of play is downright horrible and uncomfortable. A little history. Ted McCarty, the president of Gibson in the late 1950s, wanted a line of guitars that would project a more modern Gibson. The design philosophy behind these instruments was to break from the established designs that had not changed in the shape of Gibson guitars really since the company's beginnings, with round bodies. McCarty and his team, including pivotal designer Seth Lever, set about designing guitars that reflected the space age. Lever was already known at the time for inventing the PAF humbucker pickup. Lever is credited with sketching the initial rough shape and design for a pointed body guitar and called it the Flying V. Once the guitar was released to the market, the initial buyer reception was very negative. The guitar's radical design proved too unconventional for guitarists at the time. As a result, manufacturing quantities were low. Records indicate that only 81 Flying Vs were shipped in 1958, and then only 17 in 1959, totaling just 98 instruments for the initial product run. By the end of 1959, sadly, the Flying V was discontinued because of poor sales. The real birth of the Flying V took place during the mid-1960s as innovative rock guitars embraced its unique look and sound. Because of the new interest, Gibson introduced or reintroduced the Flying V in 1966 with regular production commencing in 1967 forward. Enter Epiphone. The first Epiphone branded Flying V was the model 1140 Flying V released in 1983. This model was manufactured in Japan. Epiphone had a few sporadic releases of the guitar before finally the Flying V became a sustainable part of Epiphone's lineup starting in 1986. In more recent years, Epiphone has also produced various inspired by Gibson and Epiphone and Gibson custom shop recreations of the original 1958 Carina Flying V, as well as many artist signature models. The guitar on the bench today that we're covering, the Epiphone Flying V in ebony, from the new Inspired by Gibson collection, recreates the 1958 classic with a mahogany body and a set mahogany slim taper C neck. The guitar has the following specifications: a pair of Epiphone Pro Bucker humbuckers, CTS pots with period correct wiring, Epiphone Vintage Deluxe 18:1 ratio tuners, a vintage Epiphone logo on the headstock, rolled neck edges, an Indian Laurel fretboard, 22 frets, a Graphtec new bone nut, lock tone 2-nomatic bridge, and string through tailpiece. The guitar sells brand new for $699. Used, the guitar sells for $338 to $552, depending upon condition. Observations. I own two Gibson Flying V guitars, and I have to say by comparison, I'm very impressed with the Epiphone version of the V. Side by side, I'm pressed to find any differences beyond the name on the headstock and the poly bass finish. I normally do not collect ebony guitars, but I find that I really like the look of this guitar. It's very classic. The quality of the finish is outstanding. It is funny that the word classic comes to mind for me when the design of the guitar originally was intended to project the future. I found no sharp edges on the frets, and there are no raised frets that cause fret rocking. The only thing I really don't appreciate about the guitar is the Indian Laurel fretboard on my guitar may have rolled edges, but the surface of the fretboard is really rough to the touch. I plan on a subsequent video where I tape off the guitar body and pickups to make sure that I don't get steel wool filings on anything that's magnetic. And then I steel wool the fretboard with a coarse grade of steel wool and working through various grades until I get to 0000 grade. This with some oil should help hopefully smooth things out. My guitar weighs in at 7 pounds and 2 ounces or 3.23 kilos. Other than the fretboard being rough, the only other thing I needed to do out of the box was to adjust the pickup height. The neck relief, string height, and intonation were all set fine from the factory. It was a very playable guitar out of the box. The electronics are solid and pretty much what I would install on the guitar if I were to build a harness myself with CTS pots. For what you're paying, the pickups are great. I think they have excellent tone while sounding great, both clean as well as driving a distortion or fuzz pedal. To summarize, most people, and that includes me, cannot afford the $2,499, which is what this guitar with the Gibson name on the headstock goes for brand new. Used, the Gibson model sells for $1,494 to $1,889. To me, a Flying V is a fun-to-own guitar and something that I'd play every once in a while. Paying $500 used for the Epiphone version, to me, is just the better deal all around. You get a chance to play and enjoy history, but at a more affordable price.